Hey crew, Mark Hadmaker here. Let's talk a little bit of a conditioning tip, a flexibility tip, perhaps get you at a shoulder pain tip. This is all from our studies from old school conditioning, and we put all this together in our unlimited conditioning workout. But let's talk about the shoulders specifically. And this is just meant to illustrate, it's not an exercise at all. It's not resistance exercise, flexibility exercise, and yet it might change some things for you right now. Just let you know how deep in the weeds smart the old timers were. So if you've got shoulder pain already, some of us have been through it. If you're doing combat sports long enough or lifting long enough, that kind of thing happens, right? Of course. And if you don't, you might have some come down in your future because, you know, there's wear and tear and go over the shoulder. But one thing, let's first take shoulder range of motion. If I was to tell you right now, I want you to lift your arm straight up over your head and get it back where it's back here next to the ear. If you got any kind of pain or a flexibility issue there, sometimes it stops a little bit short. So if I was going to give you the lateral on this, you might come up and see something like this happen, right? When you kind of get stopped. And we wanted to get that shoulder up even higher. Often what we do to compensate for it, we'll see people kind of arch their back a little bit and they think they're getting their arm in high. I mean, I've been there myself, but you're really not doing anything. You've not really changed the relative position. You might find out, hey, I got this far, and then I kind of arch with my back. I put this big lordosis in there, and I get that shoulder overhead, and you're going, it's really not changing the relationship to what's going on. Now, for the old timers, where they would tell you, you're turning on the muscles in the wrong order. And this comes down to how they would approach their flexibility work. This comes down to how they approach their mobility work, even though they weren't really calling it any of this stuff. Also, all the strength work, and they considered this was all part and parcel. So, like even if we were going to do a standard shoulder press, we just think, you know, you push something overhead. They're not thinking that. That's not enough. You're not turning on enough. So let's go back to that shoulder position we're talking about. We got this muscle running through here called the serratus anterior. So as we were raising that arm up, we're just not going to just be thinking about taking our arm up and getting all the way up here. Often if we think we have a flexibility issue, we'll start doing things like really stretching hard on that the tricep, or grabbing a stick back behind her back, pulling it back and forth. Some people do those capsule immobilizations, you know, and put in the band right here and, you know, stretch off the squat rack and all this. Old timers would just look at me scratching the head if bands are around. They go, what are you doing? What we want to do instead is we're lifting this arm forward. The serratus anterior, which is here, attaches that to the scapula there. You're actually going to kind of pull that the shoulder down. That shoulder blade goes down because of this muscle. So as this is raising, most of us are just thinking about, you know, raise that arm up using the deltoid. As this raising gets right around here, serratus anterior, which is right through here, engages, and you see how that kind of depressed and pulled that shoulder blade forward. That ain't going to be enough. As it goes forward, then you turn on the rhomboids, which are in the back here, and it would pull the shoulder blades together, and it kind of rotates that shoulder into place. So we're not having to put the lordosis in, and it means we can leave that back incredibly neutral the entire time. So as we're raising it up, get around in here, start emphasizing that turn on the serratus anterior. As it moves up closer to the ear, turn on the rhomboids, and we see that kind of turns that arm out and allows us to keep the spine completely neutral. Now, a lot of us are already seeing the wisdom when you're actually doing a press that is grabbing a weight and shoving something overhead. You should be thinking that. You're going to have that already racked and loaded when you're doing any sort of press. Serratus anterior comes on first, and as you're pushing upward, then the rhomboids come on. The deltoids are being worked the entire time. This, as you see, by putting muscles together in the proper chains, improves flexibility because it lets you know what order these things are supposed to go in. This also improves the efficiency of your workout, gets you out of a pain hole, because sometimes if you've got bad shoulders and you're moving through any kind of clicking or crunching, same thing for your hips, what have you, you likely are turning on things in the wrong order. And then this ain't me talking, this is the old schoolers talking. I'm telling you, it's helped me a good deal. I've been kicking a hip replacement surgery down the road for going on 5 years now. Phenomenal. And this stuff is every aspect of the body has been thought of this way, how to rechain, how you're putting the muscles together. Same thing whenever you're putting together the old school thought on boxing and wrestling. Rechain how you're approaching with your body. So often you can do a technique, hey, man, that just looks like a standard bicep curl. This looks like a standard double wrist lock. But whenever you're rechaining and retraining how your muscles are going together, as you approach it, what looks like something is something completely different. And also, once you understand how to turn on and engage and rechain your train for, let's say you're doing your submissions or your boxing, the same thing, you're able to attack these weak points, and someone else is just using what might be the surface look of the double wrist lock, or coming in with their standard punching and not really putting everything together. hopefully this wasn't too esoteric in the weeds, but it's enough to kind of really get down there my appreciation for how deeply and well thought out some of this material was. If you want a good look at this without going completely crazy with it, I would direct you to our conditioning product called Unleaded, Armed, and Dangerous. I think it's a great toe in the water. It's everything about biceps and triceps. That's all it is. And it gives you 2 complete workouts in there, but it really goes deep into the weeds about how this chaining goes through. If you like what we're presenting on that, then by all means, delve deeper into what's going on there. And if it's just the combat sports is the only place where you're at on it, I get you. Please look at our combat sports material. The same thing, going really deep in the weeds to retrain and rechain the musculature that we're using, how we apply it, and if anything, can get you out of pain holes. Because right now, if you got shoulder clicking, I'm telling you, if you're raising up and learn how to turn on these muscles in the right order, again, start with the deltoid raise, moving the serratus anteriors, or getting to the top, squeeze together the rhomboids, you can be crazy appreciative of how much this gets you past that clicking. That'll turn down that inflammation off that tendon where it's moving over the top of bone, which can lead to osteoarthritis down the road. Do the same thing with your hips. All other joints do this with every muscle in your body, every joint in your body. Your conditioning goes to the roof with far less work because you're working smarter, not harder, and you're not working a new school way. You work in the old school way. Man, I didn't invent this stuff. These guys did. So hats off to the hosses of yore. If you want to see more of this material, go over to our website, www.extremeselfprotection.com. And if you stuck around this long, I appreciate you. Here comes my